I'll never forget that Christmas dinner. It started like any other holiday. The whole family was there. Parents, my brother and his wife, aunts, uncles. The table was packed with food, but nobody was really paying attention to it. Then my wife suddenly set her fork down hard and said she needed to say something. The room went quiet instantly. She said she couldn't keep it inside anymore. Then she admitted she was in love with someone else. There was this long pause, like she was building up to something bigger. Then she said it. She was in love with my brother. It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. My brother looked like he might be sick. His wife just stared, stunned. My mom made a choking sound. Nobody knew what to do. I stayed calm. I took a sip of my drink and thanked her for telling me. She blinked at me like I had lost my mind. I told her I appreciated the honesty, even if it came way too late. Then I explained that I had already known for months. I had seen everything, messages, receipts, all of it. I didn't say anything earlier because I needed time to get my situation in order. Now everyone was staring at me instead. My brother finally spoke, asking if I really knew. I told him yes, and that knowing had given me the chance to handle things properly. That's when I reached under my chair and pulled out a folder I had prepared. I told my brother I was buying him out of our business. Inside were 3 separate professional valuations. I made it clear he could either accept or we would move forward with a forced sale according to our agreement. I slid the folder across the table, and it bumped his glass slightly. Then I looked at my wife and told her I had already filed for divorce. She had been served the week before. I even mentioned that the woman who had approached her at yoga was actually part of that process. Her face changed rapidly, like she couldn't process what she was hearing. She asked if I had really filed. I confirmed it. I went further. I explained that the marriage counselor we had been seeing was recommended by my lawyer. Every session where she claimed she wanted to fix the marriage while still seeing my brother had been documented. That would matter in court. My brother started flipping through the papers, getting angrier as he read. He said the valuation was too low. I told him it was fair market value for a small construction company with aging equipment and uneven income. 3 different professionals had come to the same conclusion. If he wanted to challenge it, he could, but the agreement was clear. My dad finally demanded to know what was going on. I laid it out simply. My brother had been sleeping with my wife and using company funds for hotels, dinners, and trips. That wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. My brother's wife jumped up so fast her chair fell backward. She couldn't believe it. My mom started crying. My dad looked completely shaken. My wife grabbed my arm and said we could fix things. She promised she would end it and that we could try real counseling. I reminded her that we had already been to multiple sessions where she lied directly to the therapist while still seeing him. I told her I was done. My brother accused me of planning everything. I told him I had. While they were busy with their affair, I had been preparing. Then I asked what their plan had been. Were they going to ask me to step aside? Were they expecting everything to just fall into place? They had no real answer. I stood up, put on my coat, and wished everyone a Merry Christmas. I apologized to my parents for how things came out. Then I reminded my brother about the deadline on the offer. I told my wife her belongings were already packed and placed in a storage unit under her name. She had the keys with the divorce paperwork. I told her not to come back to the house. Then I walked out. My hands were shaking when I got to my truck, but I couldn't stop smiling. It felt like everything I had been holding in finally released. That night, my brother called, yelling about theft and unfair valuations. I told him to get a lawyer. Our partnership agreement had been written specifically to prevent situations like this. He didn't have the money to buy me out. I did. He called again later, still angry. I stopped answering after that. The next morning, my wife showed up at the house. I had already changed the locks. I watched through the doorbell camera as she tried her key. First confusion, then anger. She started pounding on the door and yelling at me to open it. I used the intercom and told her the house was mine. I had bought it before we got married, and her name wasn't on it. I reminded her that her belongings were already moved. She argued that I couldn't lock her out of her own home. I told her it was never her home legally. She refused to leave and started yelling louder, talking about rights and lawyers. I called the police. When they arrived, she immediately switched to acting like a victim. She cried and said she had nowhere to go. The officer asked me to explain, and I showed him the documents, divorce filing, deed, everything. They told her she had to leave. She asked where she was supposed to go. One of the officers pointed toward my brother's truck parked nearby. He had been sitting there the entire time. After that, my phone started blowing up. Her friends, some mutual acquaintances, even a few of her relatives reached out, accusing me of being cruel and overreacting. I sent the same message to all of them. She had an affair with my brother for months, lied repeatedly, and used our shared resources to do it. I was done. Most people stopped contacting me after that. A few tried to argue that everyone makes mistakes. I blocked them. My parents called later. My dad said my brother wanted to negotiate the business valuation. I told him there was nothing to negotiate. The number was final. My mom mentioned that my wife was telling people I had been emotionally distant. I told her I had proof. Messages showing them mocking me and planning around my schedule. I sent everything to my parents. After that, they stopped questioning me. My brother tried confronting me at a job site. He asked what I wanted. I told him clearly, accept the buyout or face a forced sale. He got angry and shoved me slightly. It didn't turn into a fight, but it showed where things stood. Soon after, he hired a lawyer and tried to delay everything, claiming the agreement was invalid. My lawyer wasn't worried. The agreement was solid. Meanwhile, my wife started telling people I was controlling and abusive. It didn't work. The people who knew us didn't believe her. The counselor's notes were submitted in court, documenting every lie she told. My brother's wife filed for divorce as well. They tried accusing me of stealing from the business. I hired a forensic accountant. Everything on my side was clean. On his side, there were personal charges, unexplained withdrawals, and inflated claims. My lawyer told me it could turn into a criminal case. I said I didn't want that. I just wanted him out of my business and my life. He tried one last time to talk things out, even asking me to reconsider. I told him there was nothing left to discuss. He had made his choices. Eventually, he accepted the buyout. We signed the documents without speaking. I walked away with full ownership. His divorce didn't go well for him. His wife took most of what they had. My divorce moved quickly. My wife tried to claim half the business, the house, and more. None of it worked. The judge made it clear that her actions had consequences. She left with her personal belongings, and that was it. After everything, my family split. Some people took sides. I didn't care. Anyone who supported what happened wasn't someone I needed around. The business improved after my brother left. It turned out he had been causing many of the issues. Once he was gone, operations became smoother and profits increased. He and my ex tried to build a relationship after everything, but it didn't last long. They eventually split. He sent me a message apologizing. I didn't respond. She reached out as well, saying she made a mistake and wanted to talk. I told her no and blocked her. What stayed with me wasn't just the cheating. It was everything around it, the lies, the planning, the disrespect. They thought I wouldn't notice. They used my own resources against me. That's what hurt the most. A year later, things are different. The business is doing better than ever. I expanded and improved operations. My ex is struggling from what I hear. My brother moved away. We don't speak anymore. My mom tried to bring everyone together again, but I refused. Some things can't be fixed. The divorce was challenged again, but it went nowhere. Everything was clean and documented. I sold the house eventually and moved somewhere new. I needed a fresh start. I started dating again, taking things slowly. What I learned is simple. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Set boundaries and stick to them. They wanted me to react emotionally, but I didn't. I handled everything calmly and methodically. Sometimes I think about how it all happened. Maybe it could have been handled differently, but they made their choices, and I made mine. Now the business is mine. My life is mine. People ask if I forgive them. I don't really think about them anymore. They're just not part of my life. That's not anger. That's just how things ended up.